Eileen, thank you for agreeing to do this interview. I know that being in front of a camera is not one of your favorite things to do, being in the spotlight, but I think that your story is amazing, and it's a story that everybody just needs to hear. So,
Sure.
thanks.
This is going to be fun.
Yeah, thanks for doing it. So I just want to start out. Everybody doesn't know you from the church, and with COVID and everything, we've been locked down, and I feel like even more, there are people that are in our church, and they have these amazing stories, and nobody knows about them. I was at a women's ministry meeting. This is how it all came about, and we were talking about that exact thing, the people we see up front every Sunday. But one of the gals mentioned there's got to be some great stories of the people sitting in the pews. And right away, me and another gal turned to each other and we said, Eileen. And then she said, you've got to get that story. So, yeah, that's why we're here. You have an amazing story, and just it's important for everybody to hear it. So here we are, Eileen's story. So you and I met 20 years ago in a Bible study. You remember that?
Yes.
Yes.
And we were 20 years younger.
Yes, we were. And I remember after a couple of weeks, I was like, oh, that poor blind lady. She doesn't ever get to read any books. So I offered to come to your house and read books to you. You remember that?
Oh, I sure do.
Yeah. And so I did. I came and we read books and everything. But I found out later you don't really need me to read books to you.
No.
No, because you have something that you tell us about that. How do you read? You read books all the time.
Yeah, I have audiobooks. I got a special machine that I can play them on, and so many different books out there. It's amazing. So when I go down to exercise, I always take my recorder with me to listen to a book. It helps pass the time.
Oh my gosh. And speaking of exercising, I've never known anyone in my life who says, I love to exercise, but you love to exercise.
I do.
Yeah. You have a bike.
I have a bike, I've got a treadmill, I've got a recumbent bike, and weights.
Ah, this is how you keep that girlish figure. Most people are like, I hate to work out. You're always like, I love working out.
Yeah.
So we became good friends. As it turned out, you didn't really need me to read any books to you, but we did end up becoming very good friends. We've been great friends for all of these years. And I went back several years ago, and I wanted to start a Bible study. And I kind of just want people to know this also, that you are well respected in the church. And I was going to start a Bible study, and they were like, yeah, we're not so sure about that crazy, wild Julie girl. So they called you along.
Yes.
And you were there to be my mentor and kind of keep me from, going off the rails, and just to make sure I was doing everything right. But that just speaks volumes to who you are, that, they put you actually in charge of the Bible study and to watch out over me. And it was a great run. We had a great time.
Yes, we did.
We had a great time. So, you are married to Steve. A lot of people here in our church know Steve because he is one of the people that's up front all the time, but you are not. So, tell me about Steve, and how did you guys meet?
Well, actually, I was in the car with a friend of mine, and we were at a stoplight, and Steve pulled up next to us. I didn't know who this guy was. And he looked over and said hi, and the light turned green, so we went, and come to find out, the gal I was with is his old girlfriend.
Ah.
So they set up a blind date. It's a Halloween party from his church that he went to. And it was very cold that night. I didn't dress too warm, and when we went on the hayride, he gave me his gloves. And I thought, oh, what a nice guy. So when the party was over, we walked over to where our cars were, and he had this, it was a 69 Camaro It's like a sky blue with white bucket seats, 4 on the floor. I fell in love with that car.
You fell in love with the car
I did.
before you fell in love with Steve.
Yes. So, it's an amazing car.
So you started dating, and you told me that there was something that happened. That was in October of 1974?
73.
73?
Yeah.
And what happened in December?
He asked me to marry him on my birthday. And I told him no. We don't know each other. It's only been about 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I might have crushed his feelings, but I don't know. But
he hung on.
he did, and about a year later, he asked me to marry him again, and I said yes.
And you guys got married on, I'm looking at my notes, but you already know that by heart.
Yeah, November 22nd.
1975.
Yeah.
1975. So next month, we're doing this in October, but next month will be your 46-year wedding anniversary.
Yeah, I don't know where all that time went to.
I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
So you guys, you're married, you're young. You did all the normal things that young married people do.
Mm-hmm.
You were like, you said you guys went dancing and saw movies and rode bikes and everything. I think sometimes young people look at us old married people and they think, they only just see us as old married people and they don't ever realize that we were just like them, when we started out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Did all the same things they did. So you'd been married about 4 years when you learned that you were losing your eyesight.
Correct.
Yeah. And why was that? That was due to?
Diabetes.
Okay. And so you tried to see a doctor, or?
Yeah, I did see a doctor, and they did laser treatments on my eyes, but because of all the scar tissue, it pulled my retinas off. So I lost the sight that way.
You didn't lose it all at once.
No,
it was
gradual.
little by little.
Yeah.
Do you think that's a blessing to lose it little by little, or do you think that's harder because you have to watch it happen?
I think it's easier to lose it slowly.
Mm-hmm.
Because I could, see the different colors and things still. And I remember the sight was almost gone, and we were going somewhere. We had to walk across the lawn, and I looked up, and dark sky, and seeing the stars. And I knew soon I wouldn't be able to see that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was tough.
Mm-hmm. How old were you when you lost your sight?
23, 24.
You were really young.
Mm-hmm.
And it was the 70s. Steve says that you're stuck in a time warp from the 1970s because, that's the last time you saw things. So
Yeah. Clothes, I guess, has really changed, but
yeah.
yeah.
How did you deal with that? With finding out that you were going blind? Emotions.
It was hard to take, but losing it slowly, I could get used to not seeing things clearly anymore. So it was gradually kind of got used to it before I lost all of it.
So you were praying, asking God to not let it happen to you, but obviously your prayer wasn't answered. So you've lost your sight, or you hadn't quite lost all of your sight when you were out washing your car one day.
Right.
Did you have a fancy car too, like Steve?
No, I had a Ford Maverick.
Oh, Mavericks. So
Yes.
you were out washing that Maverick.
Yep. And while I was out there, there was this guy. You see him walking down the street and going to different houses, and he stopped in our driveway and found out he was a door-to-door preacher. I thought, okay. So we ended up going inside the house, and he was talking to me about Jesus. So I was listening to him, and I was not a Christian. Steve thought I was, because my mom said I was.
Mm-hmm.
So he asked me if I wanted to accept Christ in my heart, and I said, yes. So that's when I became a Christian.
What was different that day? Because obviously you were raised in the church.
Mm-hmm.
Had you just been kind of going through the motions?
Yeah. Pretending.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And just, I was ready. Well, it was a God moment. I didn't realize it.
Yeah. You said that even by 1970 standards, that's kind of odd to have a traveling preacher. I mean, even in the late 1970s, people weren't going door to door that way. So, yeah, it really does sound like a God moment that he just happened to be there and, led
Yeah.
you to Christ.
Yeah.
So, you're lost your eyesight to the diabetes. I'm going to go off track here just for a second because you have another part of your amazing story is that you've had so many things go wrong with your health, and you're kind of like a walking miracle. So these are some of the things you've shared with me. In 1986, you had a transplant.
A kidney transplant.
Yes, kidney transplant. Whose kidney was that?
It was my sister's. She donated one of her kidneys.
A big thank you to Joyce, huh?
Yeah,
And that went well.
it did.
Yeah. And then 2002, you had another transplant. That was your pancreas,
the pancreas,
right?
yeah.
Yeah. You've had open heart surgery, gallbladder removed, both your knees are replaced.
Yeah,
You're like the bionic woman.
pretty much.
Kind of like a walking miracle. But against your doctor's advice, they said don't get pregnant.
Mm-hmm.
But in 1983, you did. You
Mm-hmm.
got pregnant. Mm-hmm. Tell me about that. That was a difficult pregnancy, wasn't it?
It was. We were not trying to get pregnant. It just, another God thing.
Mm-hmm.
He said no. So, well, the pregnancy was going okay to begin with, but then I got switched to a different doctor at Loyola. Had to go in there, and this doctor, she wasn't real thrilled about it.
Mm-hmm.
So, but as time went on, things seemed to be going okay. And when Josh was born, he was 7 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
So he was developed, 10 fingers, 10 toes.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in pretty bad shape. So when I woke up, I was in intensive care. But it didn't make sense to me because I should not hear a man's voice in a bed.
Mm-hmm.
And post, I don't know. Then I realized I was told I was in intensive care. And when I woke up, I couldn't talk because I still had the breathing tube down my throat. And I'm pointing to it like, get this thing out.
So you wake up and you think you're in the maternity ward and
Yeah.
you can hear a man in the bed next to you and you're like, what's going on?
Yes.
Yeah.
I was very confused. But Steve did tell me we had a boy. He's perfect. Well, he looked perfect, but later on we were finding out he had some issues.
Mm-hmm.
So ended up he eventually had to have a G tube. It's a tube into the stomach, a feeding tube.
Mm-hmm.
And he ended up having a seizure while we were up in the pediatric intensive care unit. So doctors made us get out of there, and they took care of him. And from that, he apparently had some brain injury done. So we didn't know it at the time, but as time went on, we noticed, because he wasn't verbalizing like he should.
Mm-hmm.
He never learned how to take the bottle or later on eat. He didn't know how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
So
He just didn't develop all the way.
no.
So it was 5 days till you finally got to meet him.
Yes, it was.
You were intensive care, and he was in the ICU as well, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pediatric. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you eventually got to bring him home. He came home, and you took care of him.
Mm-hmm.
I find it amazing because I know your story that there's several instances where you knew something was wrong with him before caregivers, before Steve. It's like you had that mama sixth sense about him. Tell me about a couple of those we've talked about before.
One was when he was home, we had nurses coming in, and I could tell when he had a UTI, urinary tract infection. Before the nurses did, I told him he's got an infection going on. And sure enough, they get a sample and test it, and I was right, so they got medication for him right away. Mm-hmm. And then...
How did you know that? How did you know he had the UTI?
The smell.
You could smell it.
Mm-hmm.
So God removes one of your senses. You can't see. But he increases or enhances your other senses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then another time he was at Rockford Memorial, because it was Christmas Eve that my family would always come over to our place, and we'd have a meal and do gifts afterwards. And somebody said, because I was holding Josh, and somebody said his lips are kind of blue. And I said, what? So we ended up leaving pretty quick, took him over to Kish and to the ER, and he was in such bad shape, he had pneumonia. So they flew him up to Rockford. No, wait, they flew him up to Rockford, and up there, he got there before us, of course, but when we got up there, we were met by a chaplain, and we thought Josh had passed.
Your heart just sinks when you see the chaplain, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he told us, no, he's still with us. We had to go in the waiting room and wait for the doctor to come out, and he told us that the pneumonia he had spread into his blood system. Mm-hmm. So he was very sick, and the doctor told us he's got about 10% chance of pulling through this. Well, he pulled through, but he pulled through. The doctors couldn't believe it.
And that was the time he got the tracheotomy then, right? Was that when he got the tracheotomy and lost his voice?
Eventually he did get a trach put in.
Yeah.
So that was not good. Because I think even though he couldn't express his feelings, I believe he was depressed, because he used to babble all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the trach, it takes away the voice.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It takes away you hearing his voice too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. They gave him too much medication one time, and you figured it out before everybody else did too.
Yep. We came up to visit, and went over to his bed and were talking to him, and I told Steve, something's wrong. This isn't the way Josh acts. So called the nurse over, and they were checking things out, and they found out they overdosed him on a medication. Mm-hmm. So they had to put some of the activated charcoal down his G tube to help get rid of the overdose of the medication.
Yeah. But you as a mom, you knew those things. You sensed those things.
Mm-hmm.
Like so in tune with your child that you knew something was wrong even though you couldn't see it.
Yeah, I could feel he was shaking, and
Mm-hmm. It's amazing.
yeah.
It's amazing. So, you have anything that you would say, speak to some moms that maybe have a child with a disability? Any word of encouragement, or someone who just found out that their child has a disability? I mean, how do you get through that? What are the real emotions with that?
It's hard. You have so many different emotions. You know, you love your child, but you hurt for them. And there's times that you get so frustrated, but they can't help it.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that's the way they are, and just love them.
Mm-hmm.
And they respond to that love. At least Josh responded to that love.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, when he had the nurses in the home, he would be fussy or just stiff. But if they would hold him, but as soon as Steve or I would hold him, he would just relax.
Mm-hmm.
You could just feel him relax, and
Yeah. He knew who mom and dad were.
yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
Did you ever feel like this is unfair? Like first I lose my eyesight, now I have a child with a disability. Like this is not the way I wanted my life to turn out. Did you ever feel that way?
No,
Never felt that way.
no, because I had 2 miscarriages before Josh was born, and even though it was a lot of work to take care of him,
Mm-hmm.
I loved him so it didn't seem like work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Aw.
And I decided, well, I always wanted a baby, so Josh would stay my baby forever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Josh is a year old, and or not quite a year later, in 1984, you got pregnant again.
Mm-hmm.
And that, of course, was against doctors' recommendations, like don't do this again. And what are some of the things that they told you about this second pregnancy?
This one would turn out a lot worse than how Josh was. It's like, ugh. And she just, the doctor she was just going on and on about how bad off this one would be, and I think she was trying to get me to cry, which she almost succeeded, but I said, no, I'm not going to let her see me cry. So I ended up in the hospital then, and the physician assistant that was in there with her came in, and she goes, boy, she really gave you a hard time, didn't she? I said, yeah, she did. Because she wanted me to abort.
Mm-hmm.
No, not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There's been so many stories about parents who have been told like this child will never make it, abort it now, and then the child is born. So let's talk about that. So Joel is born, and he's
he was perfect.
Mm-hmm.
When Josh was born, he had to go to the intensive care unit. Joel went right down to the normal nursery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, wow, what a difference. But Joel was born 4 weeks early.
Mm-hmm.
But he turned out fine.
He did really well.
Yeah.
In Steve's book, Steve wrote a book, and in his book, he kind of uses a play on words of the Bible characters Cain and Abel, and he names Joel and Josh Cain't and Abel because Joel was able to do everything Josh can't. That was kind of Steve's little play on words there. So Josh was your little boy that you had first. Joel is the second one, and he's just like doing everything, excelling at everything. You used to take them swimming. You had a swimming pool, didn't you?
Yeah, we did. In the backyard is a above ground pool, so I would take Josh outside. I had a towel laid on the deck and put him there. And then I go back in the house and get Joel, bring him out, and brought him into the pool and walked around with him. And so then I get him out, lay him on his towel, and get Josh and bring him into the pool and walk around with him. And it was great.
You're doing this all by yourself.
Yeah, I'm sure the neighbors were watching to see what I was going to do.
Then when Joel was 8 and Josh was 9, Josh got a little illness, a flu bug.
Yep.
Yeah. And he ended up not surviving that. After all these major things, he ended up not surviving this bout with the flu. And you lost him. You talked to me before about your heart, how your heart felt after 5 days after Josh was born. You finally got to hold him.
Yeah. Once they put Josh in my arms, the love that went through my body just holding him. The love for him was so overwhelming. It brought tears, but happy tears.
Yeah.
Yes, I've never felt that before, ever again. That strong love. Yeah. So.
And then on the opposite end, when you lost him.
Yeah, that was. I was holding him, and once when he passed. This overwhelming grief. The grief was as strong as the love was when I first held him. It was
like polar opposite feelings.
Yeah.
For the same child.
Yeah. But I knew he was in a better place. Never more pain. No more surgeries. He had so many surgeries. So he's a whole little boy.
Yeah. So can you speak to a parent who maybe has just lost a child or has a child that they know they're going to lose? I don't even know how you can... how do you get through it? How do you even tell somebody that they can get through it?
Just takes time. There'll be lots of tears. But eventually it will get easier, but there's still times I think about Josh and I have tears going, streaming down my face. It's like, oh, I'm glad nobody's here. Yeah.
Yeah. Never stop missing your own child.
No.
When I asked you about this, when Josh passed away, the very first thing that you said, or one of the first things that you said was that you felt bad for Steve. It was the first time you ever saw him cry. And I thought that was kind of a profound statement because you spoke about his sorrow before you spoke about your sorrow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's, well, I felt bad for him because he doesn't show his emotions. But when he started crying, it was hard for me to see him do that.
Yeah. I think sometimes we just like the guy to be they carry so much weight. Sometimes the guys in our life carry so much weight, and so they have to be the strong one. Yeah, and it's hard to see that. Not that he's not allowed to cry or anybody's not allowed to cry, but it's just hard to see that. You just want to make it all better and make it stop when you love somebody and you see them hurt so much. Right.
Yeah.
So tell me about the owl. It's a story about an owl. It's kind of cool.
It was a couple months after Josh had died. It was in the middle of night, early morning, I'm not sure what time it was, but I heard an owl outside the window. But this owl sounded exactly like Josh's laugh. Now, Josh didn't laugh that much, but when he did, he got our attention, and we'd laugh at him, and he'd be quiet, and he'd start laugh again, and it's like, this owl sounds just like Josh. So I think, God sent that owl to do that little laugh of Josh's, and it's like, well, I think Josh is in heaven and having a good time, laughing and doing everything he can where he couldn't here on earth. So it was a good feeling.
I really believe that sometimes God knows we just need some kind of a little sign. I don't think people come back as owls or angels or birds, but we have these unexplainable encounters, after people die. And I always just feel like sometimes God's like, I know they just need a little comfort. They need a little sign of something. And, you're a little owl.
Yeah.
That laughed like Josh.
Yeah.
Outside the window.
That's the only time I heard an owl sound like that.
Mm-hmm. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So, let's see. So, Joel, you told me Joel, God gave Joel special blessings. He just excelled at stuff, as he went through life. Mm-hmm. He went off to college and he graduated summa cum laude with a degree in marketing and advertising.
Right.
And I looked up his LinkedIn profile, and it says digital marketer, UX advocate, and content strategist working to make the web better one day at a time. I think he has a sense of humor too.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about Joel. Just growing up with him, I know he was just, you and Steve just adore him.
Yeah. Gosh, he was, right from the very beginning, when he was born, he was a very pleasant baby, and he just kept up that pleasantness about him. Mm-hmm. He was always, seemed like it, in a good mood, made us laugh quite a bit. Mm-hmm. In fact, when we moved into our new house, he was 2. No, he was 9 months. And I was there by myself, and I didn't know where he was at. So, new house, I'm not real sure layout of it yet, but I was calling him, didn't answer. Where did he go? What did he do? Eventually I found him in his closet, sleeping.
Oh, gosh.
It was time for a nap. Go in the closet.
Just crawled up in the closet.
Yeah. And then he was 4 when his friend and him were in our family room, and I had a beanbag chair in there. He unzipped it, and then he was twirling around in the family room, and all those styrofoam balls in
balls.
there.
Yep. Oh my gosh.
Static electricity.
Mm-hmm.
So my entire family room was just covered in styrofoam balls. And I said, I was pretty upset. I told him, you guys need to pick up all this. So they tried, but there's hundreds of these styrofoam balls all over.
Probably thousands.
Well,
yeah.
Yeah. So I told his friend he needed to go home. And Joel sent him to his room, which I thought he was in there until it was time for the nurse. Her shift was over and she's leaving. And she came back and said, "Did you know Joel's walking down the street to his friend's house?" "No. Would you tell him to come home?" So he did, and sent him back to his room, but found out he took the screen off his window.
At 4 years old.
Yeah.
At 4 years old.
And there was a pretty good drop from his window down to the ground, and
Mm-hmm.
he just took off.
So he's fearless.
Yeah. Yeah. But he was a good kid. Still is.
So he went away to college and he came home. He came back to see you guys one time. there's another little hurdle coming for your family. So he comes home because he's like, Mom and Dad, I have to talk to you about something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he comes into the family room where Steve and me are, and he sits down and said, I need to tell you something. So I thought, okay. So he pulled out this note, his letter he wrote, and was reading it, and it said that he was gay. And it's like, what? But in high school, he was dating. In fact, the last girl he dated, I thought, this is the one.
Mm-hmm.
But no, he's gay. Are you sure? Yeah. He's been dating a guy, and okay. So he talked to his friends before he told us, and they told him, don't unpack your suitcase because they'll probably kick you out. Mm-hmm. So he didn't, and we didn't kick him out. Couldn't do that.
But he left his suitcase by the door.
Yeah.
Because he believed that that's really, like his friends had convinced him that that's what's going to happen.
Yeah. But it didn't, so.
Because your love for your child, it doesn't change.
No.
No.
No. There's a lot of tears there, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Tim, Joel got married to Tim in 2014. Mm-hmm. Tell us about Tim.
He's a very kind person. You know, he would give you his shirt off his back if you needed it. Mm-hmm. So he would do anything for us.
Mm-hmm. So, I know Steve has said before that, you know, he loves him like a son. Mm-hmm. So, your relationship now with them, how's your relationship with them now?
It's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Joel told us that he was gay, and we told him that, okay, we acknowledge that this is your choice, but we don't accept it. So we both understand each other, mm-hmm. and we still get along great. We have good times, and mm-hmm. you know, so they know how we feel, and we know how he feels. So,
mm-hmm. But that doesn't change the fact that you're family and you love each other.
Oh no,
no. You guys do fun stuff together all the time. You're always going to concerts.
Yeah,
they're foodies. They're always making food for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh, they're good cooks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Came for Thanksgiving one year, didn't they? And they were like, oh no, Mom, we're making all the food.
They kicked me out of my kitchen.
They kicked you out of the kitchen. It was really good though, you said.
It was.
Different stuff that you weren't used to.
Yeah.
Like the mashed cauliflower, that's really, you think it's mashed potatoes, but it's mashed cauliflower, stuff like that.
Yeah, one time Joe put too much garlic in the cauliflower. Ah. Oh, we couldn't eat it. It was so strong. So there's a lot of cauliflower left over.
Oh boy, I bet. Yes, yeah. And no dog to feed it to, right?
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't dare do that.
Oh my gosh. So people don't know how funny you are. How you use your sense of humor. I have my own story. So I remember the time that I came to your house and I was complaining, you know, like everybody does at one point in time about being fat. And I was like, oh, Eileen, I'm as big as a house. And what'd you say?
Not as big as my house.
Not this one. And I was like, yeah, I guess you're right because I'm standing inside your house. But you use humor all the time. You call yourself the blind lady, mm-hmm. you know. So tell me how you use humor.
Just a lot of people are afraid to talk to me because I'm blind. Mm-hmm. So if I start talking with them first and joke around with them, that will help ease them. Mm-hmm. It's like, so then they'll start talking and come to find out, oh, she's okay. Even though she's blind, she's acts like everybody else.
She's just a regular old person.
Yeah.
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 What's the biggest blah, 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 blah. What's the biggest compliment someone can give you?
Oh, well, I think it's if they're talking with me or we're doing something, and they forget. They tell me, "Oh, I forgot you're blind." It's like, this is great. I like this.
I have done that before, right?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. So we were shopping. It was your 50th birthday,
Yeah.
and Steve sent us out to the mall with a wad of cash and said, "Don't come back till it's all spent." And we were shopping all day, buying you new clothes, coat, shoes, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And you and I are going up the escalator. And you know, when I walk with you, you just lightly hold on to like the edge of a coat or a sweater or whatever. We're on the escalator, and you must have let go of me to hang on to the. Were you hanging on to the rail of the escalator?
Yes.
Yeah.
And you were one step ahead of me.
And I got off the escalator, and I just started walking, and all of a sudden I hear, Julie? And I was like, oh, Eileen, I'm sorry. I forgot. I've never lived that one down, leaving you on the escalator or leaving you at the top of the escalator.
Yes.
I also used to record stuff for Bible study for you, and I would see you at church on Sunday, and I'd be standing there holding something out to you like this. You can't even see me doing it. No. Be holding something out to you, but we would be chit-chatting about something else. But in the back of my mind, I'd be thinking, take this out of my hands. And I'm like, oh, she doesn't know I'm holding this here for her to take out of my hands. So, when I'm around you long enough, obviously I forget too.
Well, Steve still does it.
Yeah.
One time.
He's got his own story to tell.
Yeah, it was wintertime, so there was a lot of snow out on the ground, and so I was always, zip my jacket up, put the mittens on, and so I went back to grab a hold of the cart. It's not there.
Where were you guys?
Walmart.
You were shopping at Walmart. Okay.
Yes. So I go, Steve? No answer. Oh, great. I'm out in the middle
Of the aisle?
Yes.
By the checkout?
Yep. It's like, oh boy. But I could hear something solid off to my left. Oh, it must be a wall. So I slowly moved that way to get out of people's the way. So I found the wall, and I'm standing there thinking to myself, where is he? Where is he? So he's out at the car, opened the trunk, and went to put the groceries in the trunk, and he notices I'm not there.
Because he was pulling the cart
and
you would hold on where the shopper would, and
Yeah.
then he was pulling the cart from the front.
Right.
He just assumed you were hanging on.
Yeah. So he looked back and goes, where'd you drop off at? So he closes the trunk, runs back in with the groceries still in the cart, comes over to where I'm standing. He goes, sorry.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. He was in the doghouse that night, huh?
Well, not really.
Not really. No. My gosh. I find that just hysterical that he just grabs the cart and walks all the way out to the car and never even notices that you're not there.
No, it's like it's routine.
Yeah.
We put our coats, jackets zipped up and gloves on, and he waits. He goes, you ready? Not that night he didn't. It's like, oh, okay.
He was in a hurry to get home.
I guess so.
Oh my gosh. I just want to say something. I remember when I first met you, I was so appalled when I would say stuff like, when I would use the word see, saw, or what was the other one? Oh, watch.
Yeah.
And I would be like, oh, you just said see in front of a blind person. Of course she can't see. And then I realized after a point in time, I was like, wait, you talk like that.
Yeah.
I call you, I'm like, what are you doing? Watching TV? You say that too. You see without eyesight, but you still see what's going on around you.
Yeah.
Tell me about cooking. You cook. You make dinner every night for you and Steve.
Yeah.
Most every night, yeah.
Yeah. I love trying new recipes.
And where are your recipes? Are they in Braille? Do you read Braille?
I do, but not so much anymore. I just the only stuff I braille now is my spices, so I know what's what. Mm-hmm. So I don't make a mistake like I did one time. I was making stir fry. Mm-hmm. So I put salt on the meat as it's cooking and put some pepper in it, and Steve comes home and we we sat down to eat and took a piece of meat. It's like, oh. Yeah, it was.
What happened?
The pepper, instead of using the shaking part, I used the pour. So as I'm shaking, I'm pouring pepper on. It was awful. So Steve rinsed it. It didn't do any good. The pepper was there.
So you threw that one out.
Yeah, I did.
That doesn't happen all that often, though.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
No.
Tell me about the time you made a turkey.
Yeah, it's a turkey roast. So it takes like 2.5 hours, something like that, to you have to put in the oven. And so I'm in the living room and I'm thinking, oh, I can
It's
start
the turkey roast. I'm going to interrupt you. It's the turkey roast that like comes in a aluminum foil pan.
Yeah.
Like you get frozen at the store or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm sitting in the living room. Oh, it's starting to smell pretty good. Well, Steve gets home and he goes, that smells good. So it was done, so I took it out, and it was not a turkey roast.
What was it?
It was a Sara Lee pound cake. It's like, they're in the same containers.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Same shape?
Yes.
That oblong shape?
Yeah. And it's like with a turkey roast, you leave that lid on.
Yeah. So no wonder it smelled so good. It's like, that's the best turkey roast I ever smelled.
But after 2.5 hours, the pound cake in the oven, I didn't smell it burning at all.
Oh my gosh.
It should have been.
But that's few and far between because you make food all the time. You're good at that. You also shop. I've been shopping with you, and you pay for your own stuff without credit cards. I guess nowadays you could just swipe a credit card, but you shop with money. How do you do that?
I fold my money, the bills different ways. Like a dollar bill will be folded just once, and a $5 bill would have it the one corner bent over, and a $10 bill would be folded twice in the corner, and a 20 is left whole, straight. It's like, unless I get them folded wrong, it works.
I've been with you. It does work.
Yeah.
What do people do that irks you?
I think the worst is if Steve, if we go to the doctor, it's my appointment, but he goes in with me. The doctor doesn't talk to me, he talks to Steve. And anymore, if they start doing that, Steve will just kind of turn his head. No, you talk to her. But if they still insist on talking to Steve, I will just butt in and say, well, no, I haven't had that. Or eventually the doctor gets the hint. But when I see him again, same thing over again. It's like,
Hello, I can hear you.
yeah, can't see you, but I can sure
I
hear
can
you.
hear you.
Yeah.
And they sometimes would talk to there. You have a friend Lisa that gives you a ride to some of your appointments. She's not even your spouse, and sometimes they even talk to her too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, come on.
Yeah.
So I'll butt in again before she has a chance to, say anything. It's like,
Or before she can have a coughing fit or something, then you can just start talking. You've told me before what your favorite Bible verse is. And I'm not going to put you on the spot
Thank you.
Make you say it from memory. So I'm going to read it for you. It's from the Gospel of John, chapter 9, verses 1 through 3. As he passed by, he saw a man blind from birth, and his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? And Jesus answered, It was not this man that sinned or his parents, but that the works of God might be displayed in him. I'll just say right off the top that anyone who knows you understands or sees how the work of God has been displayed in your life. You are so optimistic, and you are so gracious, and you are so accepting of all the things that come your way. I remember one of your many health issues that was coming along, and you and I were talking on the phone, and you said, well, I just have to wait and see how God's going to work this one out.
Yeah.
How do you do it? How do you maintain that optimism? And I guess back to that Bible verse. Why is that your favorite verse?
Because I believe that's why I'm having all these medical issues. So God can work through me to show other people how He can work in a person. Yeah, and I feel that's my purpose in life, is to, go through different issues, but, let God take control of it. And He has. I have any more different things happen. It's like, okay, God, what do you want me to learn? Or what do you want somebody else to learn? It's like, I wish that person would hurry up and learn it so we can get through this.
Hey, if it's ever me, remind me of that so I can hurry up and get going with what I'm supposed to be learning. But I have learned an amazing amount of, just by watching you, just by watching your life. You and Steve both. We touched on the hard times of your life, but share some of your best moments.
Well, of course, getting married, that was great. Mm-hmm. And then the 2 boys, the loves of my life. Mm-hmm. Can't get over that. Mm-hmm. There's nothing better.
Yeah. What's the funnest thing you ever got to do? Well, since you've lost your sight, you got to do something kind of exciting.
Yes. Went to my niece's house down Missouri, and they had some 4-wheelers. Mm-hmm. Oh, I got to drive one of those.
Mm-hmm. I'm laughing already.
Of course, somebody was behind me, telling me which way to turn or slow down. And
right on the 4-wheeler with you. Yeah.
Yes. So he guided me out to the road. They lived out in the country. And he said, okay, go as fast as you want. So I just pushed that little knob down and zoom, off we went. It was great, except for the bugs hit me in the face. I didn't like that, but the freedom I felt driving that was great. So eventually, Steve took me out, and he's never ridden one before, so he's behind me, and he was like an old man driving. Like, slow down, okay. So, but once we get out to the road, I just took off, and he wasn't expecting that, and it's like, oh.
Yeah, he was a little scared. He was talking about that one day in Sunday school.
Yes.
It was a little freaky.
Yeah, but once we got back, he got off and kissed the ground. He goes, oh, I'm so glad I'm back.
I'm back.
I had a great time. But couldn't wait to do it again.
Just that freedom of going.
Yes.
Just the wind in your face. The wind and the bugs in your face.
Bugs. Splat.
So, God has been faithful to you all these years. Mm-hmm. How has He showed your faithfulness? I know you and I talked about some of those things. But if you hadn't gone blind, what do you think would have happened? I mean, none of us, we can all say, what if, but if you hadn't lost your sight?
I don't think I'd be a Christian, because that's what kind of forced me. God said, this is it. You need to have me in your life to get through. Mm-hmm. It's like, so when that door-to-door preacher came by and I accepted Christ, it's like, this is why I'm losing my sight. It was hard to take, but when I accepted Christ, I thought things would be immediate. Some shocking thing would happen. I thought, I'll get my eyesight back. I was wrong. But I slowly learned more and more about Christ. It's like, it's fine. Now it's fine with me now. Sometimes I forget myself that I'm blind, and it's like, oh, shoot, that's right. Can't see that. Yeah.
You told me that you don't know if you would still be married, and if you weren't married, you wouldn't have had your boys, and it's just like one of those bad things, but you're finding the silver lining in the black cloud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I don't know what kind of person I would have turned out to be if I didn't have Christ in my life.
Mm-hmm. You said it's been hard, it's been tough, but it's all worth it.
Yeah, it is. Well, yeah. Looking back on the different things I've gone through, it's like, wow. And you can see God working at different times. You could see His hand on us.
Marriage is hard enough, and many marriages wouldn't have even survived one of the things. They say losing a child is like one of the hardest things, that a lot of marriages don't survive that. Just all the things you guys have been through. People couldn't have survived one of those things, but you guys have survived multiple things, and not only just survived it, but you still have a happy marriage. You still love each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's God's hand on us. Yeah,
it's pretty amazing. I'm going to finish up with a story that's happened fairly recently. How long ago did this happen?
2 years ago.
2 years ago. So you have a chronic skin cancer that has to be treated all the time, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're always treating you somewhere, and it's from the medication that you take?
Yeah, for the anti-rejection medication for the transplant.
Mm-hmm. So they're always burning something off of you. They're always scraping something off of you. Sometimes you have to put cream on that makes your skin peel.
Yeah, and something called the Mohs surgery.
Yeah.
Is where she will cut on the skin where the cancer is at into a football shape. So hopefully she could close it up. But a lot of times she can't. So I have to go to a plastic surgeon.
Mm-hmm.
And they can borrow some of my skin from someplace else and sew it on. And But this last big surgery I had was on the leg, the lower leg. And because of the diabetes, the circulation's not the greatest, so it takes a long time to heal. And this particular spot was not healing, and got a staph infection in it. And so a doctor we were trying different medications, and he said, well, if we do a skin graft, skin graft, it might help, but then he said, well, not exactly a skin graft, it'll be that's a pig skin graft. It's like, oh, okay. I didn't know they could do that. So, and he said, if that doesn't work, we may have to amputate. It's like, oh. So, it got to the point when I was seeing him every week, and he would say, well, looks better, next week it'd be worse. And finally, after a couple of months of visiting him, he took the bandage off and he goes, oh, it's completely healed. And at that instant he said that, I got a warm, tingly feeling throughout my body, and I heard a voice, and it said, I am with you. It's like, oh, it was God.
It was the voice of God.
It's like, oh. And I don't know if the doctor was still talking or not, but I heard God, or the Holy Spirit. It's like, and then the doctor leaves the room, and he goes out to the nurse and said, well, she's healed. I'm good. It's like, oh, no, you're not. God is good.
Amen.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's such a cool story.
Yeah, I've never felt that before. It's like, first I thought, what is going on? But then when I heard the voice, it's like, oh, okay, it's God.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he is with us. He is with us all the
Oh, yeah.
time.
Oh, yeah.
But sometimes some people just get to hear that little special something or have that feeling or just, know that he was there with them. I've heard other people tell those stories too. Yeah. So cool. Well, I'm just so glad that we got a chance to sit down and do this, tell your story. I can't wait, but it's going to be when we're dead, unless they can figure out how to fix your eyesight, in the next 20 years or so. I don't think you and I have that much longer to go, 20, 30 years. They come up with some miracle to give you an eye transplant, but you're not going to be able to see me, but I can't wait till the day that we can see each other. And I've already told you what I look like, and I just want to see your reaction when you see me. And I think when we see each other, we're going to crack up. I think you're going to crack up when you see me, and I'm going to crack up at you cracking up laughing. And I don't know why we're going to laugh, but I can't wait till we see each other one day.
Yeah.
And I'm probably not going to be the first person you're going to be looking for when you get to heaven. Think you want to see your children and things like that. But
I think the first face I'll see is Jesus.
Yes.
It's like, how cool is that?
Yeah, yeah. I think we'll be laughing at that.
No.
No.
It'll be amazing.
Yeah. Well, you and Steve are just some of the most amazing people that I've ever known. It has been my joy and such a privilege to call you a friend all these years. And I'm just so thankful that God put you in my life. I'm so thankful that I asked you if I could read you books, and we became good friends. And thank you for doing this interview.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. It's been great. Yeah, I'm glad you're my friend too.
Thanks.
Can I drive home?
Yeah, I will give you a ride home.
No, I want to drive.
Oh, you want to drive home?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, people have seen you drive before.
I know.
It's been rumored that you do drive, so.
Yeah. Oh, new car. I'll enjoy that.
There you go.